Laws of memory. Principles of memory can be summarized in a small word here. Laws of memory: association, imagination, ridiculous thinking. A for association. Associate the new information with the old information already stored in the mind. I for imagination. Imagine that association in the mind and make a clear mental picture of what you want to remember. R for ridiculous thinking. Visualize the association in a funny way. Law of association. According to this law, any information can get registered in our brain only if it can be associated or linked with any of the prior information already present in our memory. In fact, all learning till date can be attributed to this law of association. Most of the things you remember have been associated subconsciously with something else that you already knew. For example, we all know what a line is. If we put four lines of equal length together end to end to form a closed figure, we make a square. If we put 6 squares together, the result will be a cube. Quite simple, but nobody can understand the meaning of a cube without knowing what a line or a square is. What is true in geometry is true in every phase of life. We learn and remember a thing that is new to us only by connecting it with something that we already knew. There is no other way of acquiring knowledge, and we have been doing this throughout our life. We may not always be aware of this process, but we make associations regularly. Association means linking what you want to remember with something you already know. In fact, our brain always stores information in the form of associations or connections. Whenever a stimulus comes from outside, it recalls the connection. For example, you are thinking about your school friend. Immediately, you will be reminded of many things associated with your friend, like the time you spent together, your school, classroom, class teacher. Similarly, when we think about a bird, along with it, we are reminded of nest, eggs, sky, and tree. Can you think of one thing to which no other information is related? According to scientists, this is impossible, since our brain can memorize information only in pairs. Associations are like pearls in a necklace. If I have a fistful of pearls and I put them on a table, chances are that they will get scattered here and there. Some of them might roll down the edge on the table and disappear. Some might remain on the table, constantly changing their position. After 5 minutes, it would be difficult for me to collect all of them in my hand. But if I put all these pearls in a string and tie a knot, and place it on the table, all the pearls will remain in the same place, making it easy for me to pick them up. Associating information with each other is quite similar to putting pearls in a string. Initially, when I asked you to memorize the list, most of you might have been able to recall the first 2-3 words or the last few ones, but not the ones in the middle. That's because all the words were scattered in the memory like pearls on a table. But through association, we connected the first word with the second, then second with third, and so on. So the information is secured in your memory. That is why even now you can recall any word from the list in the correct sequence. That is the beauty of association. We have been using this association technique consciously in some ways earlier. For example, most of us must have used the famous phrase to memorize the sequence of 8 planets in our solar system through the initials of the words. My very educated mother just served us noodles. In this course, you are going to learn how to associate anything you want to remember, and the wonderful part about the whole thing is that after using this system consciously for a while, you will automatically start using it as a natural process. Law of imagination. Law of association does not work in isolation. It works well with the law of imagination or visualization. Imagining a thing or an event once is equivalent to hearing about it 20 times. Our human brain remembers pictures better. Whatever we see, we tend to retain that information for a much longer period of time as compared to what we hear. This is because the nerves connecting the eyes to the brain are 20 times more powerful than the nerves that connect the ears to the brain. Has it happened that sometimes we meet someone whose face seems very familiar, but we are unable to recall his or her name? Now think again. Has it ever happened that you remember the person's name but don't remember his face when you meet him? No, right? This is because a face is something we see and a name is something we hear. Seeing something forms a permanent memory in our brain. In fact, try to recall any memory from the past, your graduation day at college, or your first interview, or your first anniversary. Images of those memories must have started forming in your mind because brain stores memories in the form of pictures. From the list of 15 words, when I asked you what was after elephant, were you not be able to give me the right answer without following the complete sequence? Why? Because while recollecting, you were not referring to the list. Rather, when I said elephant, immediately an image flashed into your mind and you gave the answer just by referring to that image. That is why recollection was so fast and spontaneous. This is the power of imagination. Instead of visualizing, you definitely would have had to go in the sequence, putting a lot of stress on your mind just to recollect the next word. That means if I can consciously convert any information into an image, I can keep it in my memory for a much longer period of time. Just like you have memorized a list of simple 15 words, you can remember anything, even abstract words, foreign language, or points of speech, lectures, etc., by using the power of imagination along with association. The key to an immersive imagination is the third law, law of ridiculous thinking. Law of ridiculous thinking. According to this law, whatever is odd, silly, funny, outstanding, strange, weird, unusual, or ridiculous, our brain tends to register it fast and is able to retain that information for a longer period of time. Our mind is attracted to unusual and outstanding things, events, or people. You visualized weird thing like, have you ever seen an ant talking on a mobile? Have you ever seen an elephant painting on a poster, etc.? All these things were strange and ridiculous, and that is the reason you were able to memorize them so fast. So if you can purposefully make your associations funny, then you can retain it for a longer period. We learned that the principle of air, association, imagination, ridiculous thinking can help us to register any information with easy, fast, and accurate recollection. Making strong associations. Now that you have learned the laws of memory, it's time to take up a challenge and see how you can apply these laws. How about you go to the best friend and tell him that your memory has become very strong and that you can memorize a list of 10 objects in the same sequence without writing it anywhere, and that too in just a few seconds. But before taking on that challenge, let's practice it once. Just imagine me as your friend who gives you a list of 10 words to memorize. Now let's see how you can memorize it using the principle of error, associating one word with the next while imagining it in a ridiculous, funny way. The list is book, black rabbit, swimming pool, mangoes, yellow bird, red hot, butterfly, white horse, Snow White, laptop. Let's start by associating the first word book with the second word black rabbit. Visualize that you are holding a book and it's very thick. Try to feel its weight. It's so heavy that you can barely manage to hold it. As you open the book, you see a picture of a black rabbit. Suddenly the rabbit starts growing in size. It becomes real and alive and comes out of the book. Just as you try to touch it to feel its soft and shining skin, it jumps out of your hand and challenges you by saying, "Catch me if you can." Now associate black rabbit with the next word swimming pool. Visualize yourself following the black rabbit running towards a swimming pool. He jumps into it, splashing water all around, making you wet. People in the pool are taken aback and you can hear their screams. Swimming pool and mangoes. Visualize that the swimming pool is full of mangoes and everyone is playing with the mangoes like one plays with balls. Mangoes and yellow bird. Suddenly all the mangoes burst open and a yellow bird appears from each mango. Visualize that they are all flying in the sky. The sky seems full of yellow birds. Yellow bird and red hat. Visualize one of the yellow birds wearing a big red hat like a British lady. She is looking very pretty in it. Red hat and butterfly. Visualize the bird holding the red hat in her hand and waving it like a princess, making graceful gestures towards people. Just as she raises her hat, a butterfly flies from beneath. Now see the butterfly flying down towards you. Butterfly and white horse. Visualize the butterfly coming near you. As it comes closer, it gets transformed into a white horse. You are very glad to see him. White horse and Snow White. Visualize that just as you were about to sit on the white horse, Snow White came running from behind, knocked you down, sat on the horse and rode him away. Snow White and laptop. Visualize Snow White waving her hand in the air and by magic laptop appears. She herself disappears in the dust, throwing the laptop towards you. You manage to catch it carefully and place it on the ground. Now try to visualize it again in your mind in detail and see if you can recall all 10 words. I'm sure if you have visualized all the associations well, you would have been able to recall all 10 words. Using the same technique, principle of error, we can succeed in remembering a sequence of even 100 words. We can go on associating any two items in a fantastic imaginary way. The objects to be remembered are linked to one another, forming a chain, and that is why this method is called the chain method. In this method, the first object is linked to the second to the third, and so on. This is also called the story method, as we sometimes tell a story about the things to remember. This chain method or story method is the most commonly used memory technique and is very easy to understand and use. This method can be useful for memorizing shopping lists, points of presentations, answers, and many other important things from our day-to-day life. We will elaborate on this more in the next lectures. Points to remember. At any point of the association, always work with just 2 words at a time. If you remember while memorizing those 10 words, I first associated book with a black rabbit. Once I did this, I didn't think of the word book anymore. I proceeded to the next pair of words, black rabbit and swimming pool. Again, once I did this, I stopped thinking about the rabbit and simply associated my next pair of words, swimming pool and mangoes. At any given point, I was only working with associating 2 words at a time. When you are a beginner in memory techniques, it's very natural to create story connecting all the words. For example, let's say you imagine your associations like this. As you opened the book, you saw a picture of a black rabbit in the swimming pool. The black rabbit came out and started eating a mango. From the mango, there appeared a yellow bird. The black rabbit starts playing with the yellow bird. Though this might seem okay at the moment, you will find it difficult to recall the words in the same sequence later on. See what will happen. When you think of the word book, it immediately reminds you of the black rabbit. When you visualize black rabbit, what comes to your mind? It may trigger off thoughts of one or more of the 3 things: swimming pool, mango, yellow bird. When you think of a swimming pool, does it remind you of the next word mango? Chances are that it doesn't. Now check it for yourself. In my original associations, the word book is only linked with the black rabbit. Further on, the black rabbit is linked with a swimming pool, which is further linked to a mangoes, and so on, resulting in recollection without any confusion. Summary. Always link 2 words at a time when using the chain method. The first word should be linked only to the second only to the third, and so on. The first word should not be linked again to the fourth. Likewise, the second should not be linked to any other word except the first and the third. How to make strong associations. Sometimes people say that we are not good at imagining things or cannot make as strong an association between words as you make. They claim that they tend to recall better when they remember using my associations or when I make them visualize an association. I would say it's just the opposite. Just think of how well you remember the story of your favorite movie. Sometimes you can recall each scene of the movie as well as its dialogues. Now think about a movie where you are the actor, the director, producer, editor, and dialogue writer. Can you forget the movie? It's just not possible. Similarly, it's not possible for you to forget the visualization you have created yourself. It's important to know that you can associate 2 things in whichever way you want. There is no set track for making associations. In fact, whenever you try to associate 2 words, most of the time more than one association will come to your mind. Try to choose the one that seems most logical and ridiculous, something that does not happen every day. For example, if you have to associate 2 words, book and house, you can visualize different associations between the 2. For instance, a house is made of books instead of bricks. A house is full of books. As you open the book, a big house came out of it as a gift for you. A big house is the foundation of a house built on it. A big book is the foundation of a house built on it. A book full of pictures of different types of houses. Key points for better visualization. Usually we are taught to think logically, and here I'm telling you to make logical or ridiculous pictures. I know some of you might face problems in the beginning in making up ridiculous pictures in your mind. Let us help you in this matter by sharing simple rules. A. All senses. E. Exaggerate, think out of proportion. I. Myself. O. Outstanding. U. Use colors and action. All senses. Try to visualize the picture or association with all your senses. Make it as live as possible. The more the numbers of senses we use, the deeper forms the impression in our brain. Your association should be visualized in the form of clear images, including sound, smell, touch, taste. If possible, for example, if we have to make an association between a bed sheet and roses, there are two ways of doing it. One, you just imagine a bed sheet with roses printed on it, or second, you can imagine the bed sheet in more detail. The roses start being real, the room is full of its smell, etc. If you go by the second way, you are more likely to remember it for a longer time, because when we involve more senses, that information is stored in more parts of our brain, resulting in a deeper impression and a better recall. To sum up, we have to use most of our senses while imagining things for effective memory.